From calling a Russian-born German fighter a to punching a 50-year-old man in a pub. Here are Conor McGregor's worst moments ever. Starting off with a time when he took trash talking too far against Dennis Siver.
My thoughts on Dennis Siver is he's a midget German steroid head. That's my thoughts on him, so I don't have any thoughts other than that. But if you think
this is up there as one of the most controversial things that McGregor's ever said. And that's saying something, because he is well known for always saying the worst things. There are a lot of moments to compete against. Before his fight against Dennis Siver, McGregor posted a tweet on his account saying, "Kiss them feet." After an understandable backlash over the usage of that word, McGregor deleted the tweet and then wrote an apology, which, well, only made matters worse, because the apology was, "Ich bin ein sorry, now about them feet," which loosely translates to, "I am sorry," but clearly in a way where he was still mocking the Russian-born German. But trust me, this pales in comparison to some of the other stuff that he said. Like, what could be worse than his comments about Jose Aldo? Sure, I get it. The UFC is all about selling your fights and whatnot, but there's no excuse to be racist. And before McGregor knocked out Jose Aldo within 13 seconds, in the build-up to their fight, the Irishman said that they were in a new time, so I'll whoop Aldo's instead. If it were a different time, I would invade his favela on horseback and kill anyone not fit to work. Going on to add how he'll turn Aldo's favela into a Reebok sweatshop. Unfortunately, it only gets worse from here on out, because in 2017, he definitely crossed a line with some of his remarks against Floyd Mayweather. The Notorious, before making his professional boxing debut, shouted to Pretty Boy, "Dance for me, boy," and then he went on to add that he himself was half black from the belly button down. I'm glad I don't have to explain these racist analogies, but for anyone confused, cultural appropriation at its finest is all you need to know. And the fact that he offered an apology, but it was such a lame one that he probably shouldn't have bothered with it. After denying racism, McGregor added that he was sorry in case anyone was offended. He said that he apologized, but he is human at the end of the day. I'm not sure what to make of that, honestly speaking. Yet, that wasn't the only terrible moment between the two in the build-up to their boxing fight. Because who can forget that awful suit that the Irishman wore to the press conference? And the fact that it had written all over the suit? At least this bit wasn't racist, because knowing McGregor, it wouldn't be surprised if he tailored some sort of low blow. So we've covered racism in detail, along with some very disrespectful moments from McGregor. What's left? Yes, homophobia. Now, this may come as a surprise because McGregor has campaigned for same-sex marriages before, but maybe the mask slips at times, huh? Now, we know that he was very good friends with Artem Lobov, and when his friend was defeated back in October 2017, McGregor didn't take the defeat lightly. In fact, he called out Lobov's opponent Andre Philly by saying that he was a for his tactics. Once again, you can probably guess what came next. Massive outrage. Yet, he remains uncancelled. He had the chance to offer an apology, and McGregor said that he slipped up, and the same washed-up excuse about how he's a human and does stupid things every damn day. But that doesn't excuse it, considering the fact he's got a massive platform and young people look up to him. Though, they're better off looking up to other fighters, since his actions inside the octagon are bad enough. But the ones outside it are far worse. This takes us to the next controversial incident from the Notorious, the bus attack. This incident almost killed his career, but for his fans, it's the perfect display of friendship and loyalty. I'd rather not say which side I'm on. Back in 2018, Khabib and Lobov were filmed in a dispute, and McGregor, being McGregor, didn't want to let Khabib off the hook so easily. So the Irishman took a 3,000-mile trip from Dublin to New York, talk about making an entrance, and he confronted Khabib by throwing a trolley through a bus window with Khabib inside. That led to as many as 6 fights getting canceled due to injuries, and Dana White was absolutely fuming, which is a surprise because, as y'all know, the Notorious is his favorite. Uncle Dana labeled it the most disgusting thing in UFC history, and he's right. Something far more serious could have also occurred. Thankfully, none of the fighters got any serious injuries, and in a way, it led to the perfect build-up for the Khabib-McGregor fight. So even in his worst moments, the Irishman knows how to get away in the best possible manner. Yet that wasn't the end of this rivalry, and we were treated to another horrible moment, which happened right at the end of the Khabib-McGregor bout. This remains probably the most hyped fight of at least the last decade in the UFC, and while the two fighters put on a show for everyone for the first 3 rounds at least, before Khabib took over and destroyed McGregor in the 4th. It was what happened after the fight that made all the headlines. To be fair to Mystic Mac, what happened at the end wasn't exactly instigated by him. Khabib hopped onto the cage and decided it was a good idea to brawl with McGregor's team. The Irishman didn't need an invitation to do the same inside the cage, and he took on Khabib's men. A 6-month ban and a 60,000-pound fine was in order for McGregor. But he couldn't care less as he still had something to boast about. He claimed that he threw the final punch of the night on Khabib's cousin. There really is no dimming his light. While this might be the worst moment of McGregor at the UFC, a far worse incident occurred at Bellator 187. And he wasn't even fighting. But it seems that you can't keep El Chapo out of the octagon no matter what. He was there in support of Charlie Ward, a close friend. And when he won, McGregor decided to jump into the cage and celebrate with his friend, which obviously wasn't a great idea to say the very least. He was immediately confronted by the referee, Mark Goddard, who wasn't having any of it. But instead of backing away, McGregor had a verbal spat with the Brit official. And if he hadn't been held back, things could genuinely have gotten a lot uglier. It's like he doesn't understand the concept of basic rules, because if he did, then he wouldn't be arrested for dangerous driving. Sure, one of the biggest perks of landing all these famous fights is the money that comes with it. And what do you do when you have that much money? You spend it on fast cars. Yep, McGregor is known for his fantastic car collection, but having the very best cars does not mean that you're entitled to do whatever you want with them. And his $170,000 Bentley landed him in hot water last year. The local police claimed that he was hauled into the police station and arrested over road traffic offenses. And while his bail was posted, obviously it didn't come as a surprise to anyone that it wasn't his first offense. He'd been fined well over $300 at the same venue a few years ago for overspeeding. Something tells me that it wouldn't be the last either. But he's been up to far worse things ever since. This year, a woman accused the UFC legend of assault. Once again, this has been hushed down by McGregor and he denies the accusations. But would it really surprise anyone if it was true? The Irish woman in question claimed that the Notorious had kicked her in the stomach and then left her bruised. She had to jump into the water to escape, and authorities confirmed that an investigation had been reopened by a court in Ibiza. Here's to hoping that there's maximum punishment if it's proven, but the authorities had enough proof to catch McGregor in his worst moment yet. I'm talking about the instance where he punched a man in his 50s in a pub in Drimna. The incident was recorded on CCTV, where he was caught red-handed in the act. Then McGregor proceeded to plead guilty and received a fine just under $1,000, which really doesn't make up for what he did. And it's like he didn't learn his lesson. Apparently, the incident occurred because the man in question refused to drink the whiskey that the Notorious was offering, and McGregor just couldn't take no for an answer. Shameful. But what he did after the incident is somehow pettier. McGregor reportedly bought the pub for around $2 million, according to reports, and barred the man he punched from entering that pub under his ownership. But the man's response to the ban was even better. He told the Irish Mirror that he doesn't even plan on spending money in McGregor's pub anyway. So, from punching a 50-year-old man because he has a hard time getting rejected, to calling an opponent a these were Conor McGregor's worst moments.